Welcome to part 3 of the micronutrient series. This video covers how the amount of micronutrient is determined for an average person. The first thing to know is how the standard is set. How much is enough? Is it enough for everyone? And how much is too much? How is a micronutrient determined? Of course, it's by studies. And there are studies such as repletion depletion studies, which is a nutritional study designed to determine the requirement for a specific nutrient. Generally, subjects are placed on a diet designed to deplete them of a specific nutrient over time. Once depletion is achieved, gradual increasing amounts of the nutrients under study are added to the diet until the individual shows evidence of sufficiency or repletion. There's also a thing called balance study. A nutritional balance study involves the measurement of the intake of a specific nutrient as well as elimination of that nutrient in bodily urine, feces, or sweat. So how much goes in and how much goes out. So how much is enough? Is it enough for everyone? The standard used in the US is called Recommended Dietary Allowance, DRDA. And they assign that it covers 97 to 98% of the population. Whereas you have the EAR. The EAR estimated average requirement covers only 50% of the population. And then you have the AI, the adequate intake. This is roughly equivalent to the RDA, except that it's not as confirmed as RDA, and we'll find out why later. And then you have the too much, which is the upper level. The tolerable upper intake level is the UL, and it's the highest amount you can take with not many side effects, if at all. And if you take beyond the UL, your risk of adverse effect will increase. But this does not apply to people with conditions or high deficiencies that requires them to take at levels much higher than the UL. These are medical cases that requires medical supervision and not for the average person. So how to set the RDA? According to the Institute of Medicine, Food and Nutrition Board in US, the process for setting RDA depends on being able to set the EAR. So the EAR, to set the criteria, they have a few criteria to set it, and then they use it, they base it on the careful review of the literature. So again, it's based on studies and they have to specify their criteria. After getting the AAR, they have a calculation method that where the RDA is equal to the EAR plus 2 standard deviation to cover 98 to 97% of the population. So adequate intake is set when there are not enough scientific evidence that is considered sufficient to calculate the EAR. So there are levels of scientific evidences, with the lowest being ideas, speculations, animal research, and in vitro research. In vitro meaning on cells in petri dishes. And then there are expert opinions, case reports, which are like anecdotal evidences, personal observations. Then you have the next level, which are case studies, cohort studies, and then you see all the different studies. And then the highest being meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, and also randomized controlled trials. So we have levels of evidence. So when a person comes to you, oh, this person around me tried this thing and this thing happened to them, that's considered a case report. But because it's not documented like a scientific document, it's not actually considered, but on the level, it's just anecdotal evidence. So application of reference values in studies. So you have the RDA, which is what an individual should aim for. They should aim for the RDA to take daily. And the AI is also the aim to take daily. The UL is used as a guideline to limit the intake. You shouldn't take more than the UL unless you have specific conditions. The EAR is used for assessment to examine whether there's inadequacy, whether you're not taking enough, but then you need also an evaluation of true status. Whether the person would also require a clinical biochemical status check, something like blood or urine tests, or anthropometric data. So that's anthropometry. It's a measurement of your physical properties and primary dimensional descriptions of body size and shape. Like if you have a physical rash or if the person is really thin, these are like the physical examinations. UL can also be used for assessment. But when you're talking about planning to eat how much, the total diet or supplement, you should aim for the RDA and AI for target and not to go beyond the UL. So it's going to be between these two and the UL. So example of application of EAR. So this is a NHANES study. They did a survey for around 16,000 of US residents, I believe, and they found that there's a prevalence of micronutrient inadequacy among US residents age 4 and up. So they used the AAR, which is, you remember, 50% of the population. And they measured what they eat based on the survey, and they calculated how much food content that would reflect for the micronutrient. So they found that 100% of them, of the population, are not getting enough of potassium that is targeted at the 50%. So, and all these vitamin D, choline, E, and K, you see that more than half of the population are not even meeting the level of EAR. And EAR, remember, is just only 50% of the population. It's not even the RDA, which covers 100% of the population. So that's all for today's video. On the next video, we'll talk more about the terms, the RDA, the EAR, the AI, the UL, and what are the consequences of taking more than the UL. We will see you in the next video.